At 100 years old, Dick Van Dyke is finally ready to pull back the curtain on a century of Hollywood secrets. To the world, he's the man with the permanent smile, the effortless charm, the reassuring laugh. But behind that brightness is a list of names he still struggles to forgive. Not out of bitterness, but because some wounds never fully fade. From partners who vanished without a word to legends who stayed silent when it mattered most, these relationships tell a story Hollywood never put on screen. This is the unseen side of Dick Van Dyke. Before we go any further, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to Hollywood Unseen, and turn on notifications, because the stories you think you know almost always have a side you've never heard. And it begins with the love he was never allowed to have, Mary Tyler Moore. The partnership between Dick Van Dyke and Mary Tyler Moore remains one of the most beloved pairings in television history. For 5 seasons, they played Rob and Laura Petrie with such natural chemistry that audiences believed they were married in real life. But the truth behind that bond was far more complicated and far more painful. Off camera, a quiet intimacy grew. Long rehearsals, endless retakes, shared laughter, shared exhaustion. Somewhere between dance steps and punchlines, Dick developed a deep crush on Mary. She was brilliant, playful, and perfectly matched his sense of humor. But reality stood in the way. Dick was married. Mary was focused on her independence and her future. So they made a decision that would define both their careers, turn real feelings into fictional magic. What the audience saw as perfect acting was something much closer to restrained emotion. They poured everything they couldn't say into Rob and Laura. That tension, unspoken, unresolved, gave the show its authenticity. Years later, when Mary quietly admitted that their never becoming a real couple was a terrible waste, it struck Dick deeply, because it confirmed what he had always suspected, that the love was real and that it was lost. While Mary represented the love that never happened, Rosemary Clooney symbolized a friendship that slowly slipped away. Rosemary Clooney arrived on the Dick Van Dyke Show as an established star. Everyone assumed she would dominate the spotlight. Instead, history had other plans. As Mary rose, Rosemary's role quietly shrank. What began as excitement turned to disappointment, then resentment. Behind the scenes, small comments cut deep, jokes that weren't really jokes, comparisons that made Rosemary feel replaceable. Dick watched helplessly as the warmth between them faded. Conversations turned formal, laughter disappeared. He didn't betray her, but he couldn't save the friendship either. Fame had chosen a new favorite, and someone had to lose. But no loss hurt him quite like the one that came before fame ever arrived. Phil Erickson. Before television, before Hollywood, Dick was half of a silent comedy duo called the Merry Mutes. No dialogue, just movement, expressions, timing. Phil wasn't just his partner, he was family. They struggled together, dreamed together, survived together. Then one day, Phil was gone. No explanation, no goodbye, just silence. The betrayal cut deeply. Dick was left to finish booked shows alone, grieving a partnership he thought would last forever. That abandonment changed him. It taught him that even the closest bond could disappear overnight. From that moment, he learned to rely on himself, no matter how friendly the world seemed. That lesson followed him straight into his biggest opportunity. Carl Reiner gave Dick Van Dyke his career. He saw something special and built a show around it. The result was legendary, but success came with a cost. The show was Carl's vision, Carl's voice, Carl's control. Dick was the star, but often felt like a guest. Ideas went unheard. Creative freedom stayed limited. When they tried to work together later, the failure only deepened old resentment. Gratitude and frustration lived side by side. Carl opened the door, but never fully let go of the handle. And then came the silence that hurt him on a global stage. Walt Disney. Mary Poppins was supposed to be magic. Dick believed in it so deeply that he worked for almost nothing. But one mistake followed him forever: the accent. Poor training, wrong coaching, endless ridicule. And Walt Disney said nothing. No defense, no explanation, no protection. Dick stood alone as the world laughed. It shattered the illusion. Hollywood wasn't magic, it was business. And loyalty, he learned, often came with conditions. Yet the hardest reckoning wasn't with colleagues or legends, it was with himself. Behind the smile was addiction, guilt, affairs, a family he wasn't always present for. Alcohol became his escape, rehab became his reality. Fame didn't erase the damage, it magnified it. His first wife, Margie Willett, knew him before any of it. She hated Hollywood. She suffered quietly. Their marriage eroded under pressure, loss, and unspoken grief. Even after divorce, her death devastated him. Michelle Triola followed, a love shaped by fear. 30 years together, no marriage, no full commitment. When she died, he was left wondering if his hesitation had cost her something she deserved. And his children watched it all from the sidelines. Now, at 100, Dick Van Dyke doesn't look back with anger, he looks back with honesty. These names aren't grudges, they're reminders of love missed, trust broken, and silence that hurt more than words ever could. If this story changed the way you see Dick Van Dyke, let us know in the comments. Which chapter surprised you the most? Like this video, subscribe to Hollywood Unseen, and stay with us, because behind every smile in Hollywood, there's a story no one talks about.